What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Public Comments, man. Today is a good day. Today's a good day. Jordan, what's good, bro? Talk
What's
to
up,
me.
man? It's a good day, man.
It is
What's
a good
today?
day.
Saturday. Beautiful day. It was a good week in the markets for myself. I had a conversation with El Mago on Monday and set me right for the week. It's been a good week in the markets. How about yourself, man? How'd your trading plan go?
This week actually not so good. This week, this week was not so good for me. But the cool thing about this week is that I learned capital preservation when it comes to like, oh, I want to trade, but I know that like I'm almost
Mhm,
forcing a trade here. So
mhm.
like, there was there was two trades that I took that followed my trading plan completely and they both lost. But it was cool because I was like, dude, it's like, Mike says it right. Those losses were accounted for. So
Mhm.
it was cool. I'm down for the week. So not a big deal. Not like terribly down. I think I'm down like 1.25%, which is not terrible at all. So
Not
it's
at
really,
all.
really good. So
Win that all
I'm
back in
excited.
some.
Yeah, facts, dude. Do you want to remind people? I know we had came up with this agreement, but I remember we put a feed to this podcast. So you want to
Oh
remind?
yeah. Yeah, for all you guys who are listening, we appreciate you guys. Thankful for all of our listeners today and our continued listeners. We've gotten a lot of feedback from you guys, and it's really appreciated. And just feel the love from you guys. And I know those of you guys who are giving such great feedback are paying the fee, right? And because there is a fee, this podcast isn't free. It's $1,000, or you just share it with a friend, share it with somebody you know, share the value, right? So you have the option either send me and Mondo some money or just share the podcast. So thanks for reminding me, Mondo.
I could always use more money. That's it. So guys, today I'm actually super excited. Jordan, I'm actually super hyped for this conversation. This has been a long time coming. So last week we had a guest that I had known for a little while. Just cool, kind of have a conversation with somebody that I haven't really touched base with in a minute. And then we come back and we touch base and it's like, cool, we're still on the same page. But today's conversation is actually going to be, I think, fairly unique. Number one, because the individual that we have on today is like in the industry that ideally I want to take a path down long term. So it's cool because the reason I met him was at a mastermind that I bought into. And when they say when you have high vibrations, like people are just naturally attracted to you. You can just naturally talk to anybody without judgment or whatever. There are people that are really good at opening conversations with other people, and then there's people that are really good at maintaining conversations with other people. You know what I mean? And so this guy was one of those guys. Like we just kind of kicked it off. We chatted. I don't even know what it was, man. I don't remember the conversations we had, but I remember the vibes. I think that's what's super, super important. So Chase, bro, this is I'm excited for this conversation, bro. I'm excited to pick your brain. Jordan and I have been running this for a minute now, and a lot of people that we have on here, I'm sure you've heard maybe a episode or two, right? We like to just have normal conversations, man, and really it always leads up to just talking about money or like business and mindset. I think a lot of people nowadays are kind of like focused on learning more about those things. So I'm excited to pick your brain, bro. But what's going on, Chase? I don't know how to say your last name, bro. I'm sorry.
Eckelbarger.
Eckelbarger.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. I'm doing well, buddy. I appreciate you guys having me out here. Yeah, and I align with everything you were saying. We kicked it off right away. Just like-minded people, everyone gravitates, towards each other. If, we're like-minded. So that's kind of what we did. And yeah, I just look forward to kind of sharing my story with you guys.
That's
I
it.
think, we got kind of, similar paths.
Yeah, I agree, bro. Let's hear it, man. What's your story, bro? Like where you come from, where you grew up, like how'd you get into what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, North Side, Carmel. It's a pretty affluent city. And, just was kind of living the normal life. And then, beginning of high school, when I was, my parents got divorced and started to experience my first little bit of turmoil, in life, kind of things were on a nice trajectory doing the public school and all that. And then that just kind of started to throw a wrench in it. It was pretty bad divorce with my family. I'm the oldest of five. So I was I was pretty much when things started getting rough around like 16 years old, 15, 16, all I wanted to do was freaking skateboard. And like, I was just obsessed with that. It was the only thing I wanted to do. I wasn't an academic kid. I really didn't do well in school ever. Just wasn't the thing, and my mom ended up, kind of kicking me to the curb around 17 years old. And so, things were kind of rough around then. Like I I was kind of thrown out and had to live with the youth pastor and, people. I didn't really realize how bad it was, I wasn't getting into too much trouble. I just wanted to skateboard, that's what I was about. It was my entire being, and that was, wrong. My mom wanted me to do like the sports, the organized sport. No, you gotta play organized sports. Skateboarding doesn't, you're off doing whatever, whenever, and so it didn't really align with her. But that is a piece of the puzzle that, down the road ended up, I revised and started to understand more, like these years, especially. So, 17 years old, I moved out of the youth pastors, ended up living with my dad, who was pretty much a drunk at that time. And just spent a lot of time with friends, just kind of distracting, myself, doing whatever, I wanted to do. I wasn't, the school, college thing was not even close on my radar, especially for Carmel High School where I went. That was a pretty nice school. You can get into a good, post education and university that way. So it was kind of looked like I was wasting my opportunity. Right. So, things kind of, progressed on that page. I dropped out of high school when I was 18. As soon as I was 18, I dropped out. That was my junior year. I was really trying to finish, but it just wasn't in my cards for me. So dropped out, ended up living with a friend, just doing the whole thing, smoking weed and, having fun, no direction at all, really. And then, kind of started doing that whole thing of selling some weed to make money. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have anything. I was like, oh, this is why people, who are kind of in poverty sometimes go, it's like sometimes the first thing they do, right? They're selling drugs, it's the easiest. And what I learned was it was like the easiest business. Okay. It like the thing sells itself, the product, you just got to be there on one end to give to the other. And I was, I watched like my friend who would work a job and he was so broke and I was 18, making enough money to not be worried about it. I was like, this guy's just not smart enough. Like, and I meant it in the most respectful way, I was like, I'm smart enough that I see this going like this and I can do that, product from A to B. And like, I didn't really realize that was going to be like the beginning of my business kind of career. I learned, you hear it sometimes. I learned a lot of, ethics and morals through it. You know what I mean? So just like never being a thief, just things like that. So that's kind of what I did. And then I did it for years, had a bunch of fun, started, I was about 21 years old now, traveling to music festivals, having a good time. And then in one summer, I got arrested like 3 times. So I was just, kind of getting to that point where I was kind of out of control. Right. But I didn't realize that I was just, 21 with some money in my pocket, having a good time. Right. I was set to do that for my whole life. I mean, like, I had those conversations with my guys, I was like, hey, you in this for life or not? You know what I mean? That's a real thing for some people,
Yeah.
So, I ended up getting caught those 3 times in one summer. I thought that was pretty, obviously, I'm smart enough to realize, I'm like, hey, history repeats itself until the lesson is learned. Right. So that was kind of my first start to be like, oh, maybe this isn't what I want to be doing with my life. You're right. And so, through a lot of basically blowing all my money on attorney fees, I was able to stay out of prison, did a lot of house arrest. So that was kind of what started this like uphill trajectory for me. I lost all my money. I was on house arrest. I had to get a real job, doing union iron work. I mean, that's like real labor right there. So, I was doing that and I was just like, what did I get myself into? Right. I remember I texted my buddy on the first day on the job who got me it. And I was like, it was hot in the middle of the summer. I was like, what am I doing out here? I was on the side of a road doing construction on a bridge. I was like, never in my life did I think I was going to be this guy. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck did I do? So I texted him at lunch on my first day. I was like, bro, I don't think this is for me. I took my tools. The guys were like, hey, you can leave your tools here, man. I was like, oh no, I'm going to take my tools with me. Texted him. He texted me back. He said, should have stayed in school, sweetie. And it was like, that's where I like got hit. I was like, what did I get myself into with my actions? Right. So like, that was the first time I started to have serious reflection on like where, I was going. And so, yeah, I basically was I was on house arrest. My car broke down and I had a couple crystals at my house and I had friends online. And these were like the days that Facebook, like the groups were pretty strong, for this crystal industry. And I had 2 crystals that were like worth $20. And I texted my buddy and I was like, you're selling these right online? I was like, I have no way to get to my job, no money. I'm on house arrest. I was like, I've got to be creative here, you know? And I was like, and this was a kid that used to hustle on lot with me at the festivals. And so he was kind of a kindred spirit. You know how it is. You line yourself with people that are, you know, he had that swagger to him, you know, and just, he was doing what I wanted to do. I was like, man, I want to be like you. So, texted him, you know, that, and he's like, yeah, man. So he showed me how to do it. And I sold 2 crystals that I had. They were two single little crystals of aquamarine. I still remember it. They were $20 each. And I was like, okay, I know the buy and sell business, you know, I can do this. So, yeah, I did that. I sold those 2 crystals and got my $40 back. And I saw this parcel online of little tourmaline crystals. There was like 7 of them. And it was like $140. So I borrowed 100 from my friend. I was like, hey, can I borrow that? And I'm going to buy this. So I did that. And it was like, you know how the story goes. It's then, you know, I sold those and it worked out. And I was like, oh my God, now I got my 140, you know, I paid him back and all that. And so that was, you know, 7 years ago, going on 8. And I just did it one thing at a time and just built up this side passion and this side business while I was doing my 4 years apprenticeship and all my probation. I had to do 5.5 years probation. And if I fucked up one time, I had 7 years backup on me. So they were like, okay, we're going to give you a really good plea, but if you freaking, you know, screw up, then seven years mandatory. So, you know, I had a pretty good motivation not to fuck up, you know? So it's scary shit when people are threatening your freedom. So, you know, that'll pull you back together. But yeah, I didn't even really know what I was doing, but I will say while I was doing that, I also was trying, you know, to find like other ways to make a living. But one of the first things I identified about myself, which I'm sure you guys do as well, is that like, I do things that interest me, that first, you know, my heart and my whole soul was gravitated towards. Then obviously we find out how we can make money through it. Right. So that's always the first prerequisite for anything I do. So since I was in the crystal business, you know, officially, air quotes, yeah, I'd sold a couple of crystals, and this is like this is a worldwide business, you know, billions of dollars every year. And so it's not like I was selling like collector stamps or something, you know. So I had a real chance to maybe have a business here. But so I learned how to make jewelry while I was on house arrest. Man, I got stoked. I followed these jewelers that were in the business as well. I just wanted to be just like them, like the coolest dudes. I mean, like badass guys. And so, I mean, you know, $10,000-$20,000 pieces of jewelry, plus, yeah, really cool stuff. And, so there's like a couple things going on there that I didn't really know I was doing, but now, you know, 8 years forward, I realized I was like, wow, I naturally did this. And this is like a pillar for a successful business is one, you know, I read, you know, I was, you know, obviously reading books. I was turned on to the book Mastery by Robert Greene. Have you guys messed with that at all?
I messed with Robert Greene. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he's the man. So Mastery, I was reading that and like this one paragraph, I didn't even finish the book. I rose halfway through and this one paragraph just like exploded my mind. And it was just talking about how, you know, the path, if I don't butcher it, like the path goes to in your 20s. The point is to learn as many skills that interest you, right? Or, you know, any skills that, you know, that provide an income, and just one at a time, just go through them, and one will lead to the other, and then until you finally get to the place you want to be. And one of the things that I started noticing also, and a little bit before the ironwork, I was working at a jewelry store because I literally thought that someone that sold jewelry made money, like not getting a minimum wage. Like I for some reason, I thought I could make like $100,000 selling jewelry. So like I had so many of these rude awakenings where I was sitting there doing the thing that I wanted to do, right? Whether it was selling jewelry at a jewelry store or making it. And then I ended up learning how to cut gemstones, right? And faceting and cabbing them. My wife's engagement ring, I cut like super rare garnet from Tanzania. It was like a 1-year find, and they sparkle like diamonds and color change. So like no one else has it. And I cut the stone that was in it. So, but every time it was one of those things where like, man, I'd spend a whole day cutting a gem and I'd get what, like $200. I was like, this just isn't enough for me. Right. And so that book, you know, explains is doing one thing at a time in your 20, learning as many paying skills as you can. And eventually you don't know where it's going to lead, but you know that it is going to lead to where you want to be. It just takes, you know, one step at a time, you know, trying new things. And so, and for me, the whole thing every time was that it just didn't provide enough income, right? Like I'm here for money. I'm not here to, you know, I've seen, you know, I basically was cast down to the bottom, basically poverty, right, on my own. And I saw my family with this big house that just got ripped away from us. And I was like, I'm going to have that. Like, that's just been my first thing. I know I'm going to have that. That's the whole like being of my grind, essentially at this point. So, just like digesting books and one thing at a time. Yeah. Like I said, I cut gems. And then eventually, I found personal development, right? So, like Jim Rohn, the good old Tony Robbins, things like that. Even this guy named Joseph Rodriguez that I love, he's a coach, and like it turned me on to books, written by people like James Allen or Think and Grow Rich, with Napoleon Hill. Like that shit's powerful information. Yeah. So I got turned on to that, through personal development. I started eating healthy, throughout these years while I was on house arrest. So I was like starting to learn things. I was listening to Joe Rogan, kind of doing that whole thing as a 20-year-old, and that like really was a powerful influence for me to like get some shit together and learn about how to take care of my body, my mind, my soul, my finances. So, that's kind of just how I got, aimed in the direction of actually learning about, maybe how to make some real money. So, I'm still in the crystal business. I'm excited about it. It's been about 8 years. And I was doing the math. I was like, the way it's grown, it's just been incredible. I've done $1 million in sales from my cell phone and, just on my Instagram and Facebook. And over the 7-8 years, it's about 2,600 sales with like the approximate, average sale price being about $400. So I've done about 2,600 transactions. I usually mail about 350, 360, something like that, packages a year of crystals, all out of my house. So, and this is like stuff while I'm ironworking, I'm looking at, I just sold one crystal. I made a week's worth of ironwork pay in one crystal move, right? So you start getting enough of those, but yeah, so I know I'm kind of got, in a few different directions, but basically I kept doing the crystals, reading the books, listening to anything I could get my hands on, with personal development. And, I was at the end of my ironworking apprenticeship. Like I started going through, this was basically like, as Jordan Peterson says, like you get to get cast down into hell to like literally be rebirthed and to the, and to come out as a new person, like the Phoenix. Right. So this whole experience of getting in trouble, going through the ironworking, which happened to be a 4-year apprenticeship, and my probation was 5.5 years. So it kept me in line for two. I was going through two worthy goals, right? Not getting in more trouble and having this little career. And I found I was building a little business on the side. So I just kind of kept doing that. And I really like transformed myself because, some people, it's easy to change when things are good, but sometimes it takes things getting really bad for you to change and make a difference. So that's kind of like where I was going. And, my wife was, my, girlfriend at the time, now wife, was pregnant. And I literally, the day that she went into labor, I was ironworking and I literally was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm not coming back tomorrow. So it was like this really cool moment I had. And that was in 2018. So we went pretty much from 2013 to 2018, ironworking, doing that, building my business, reading books, trying all these new things. And it kind of came to this like cool peak where, I was ironworking every day, and through the personal development, I found obviously real estate investing. So that's kind of my lane, right? You guys have your trading. I kind of this was the first one I got into. So I'm going all in on it. Right. So I was able to walk away from my job that day and didn't have to go back, and literally supported my family on my crystal business, which was the first time ever. I'd never done that in my whole 4 or 5 years. I was able to finally sustain the same lifestyle through my business, right? Which was a fraction of the work, 100th of the work, right? So that's just kind of been what I've been doing. That was like the biggest transformation lately, pretty much in my past 10 years. And so basically in 2023, so next year, it'll be 10 years since I was convicted of all those troubles. I caught a felony. It was awful. So I'm excited to get that expunged. But yeah, it'll be 10 years in that. So that's been kind of a cool, time marker of like, you can kind of see where I was then and where I am now. And, and that just takes having that vision. As you guys know, you gotta set your sights on something that you want. And so that's been pretty cool. And so obviously we joined the real estate lab mastermind. That's been huge. And like, all I wanted to do, right, was be a real estate investor. So, but one side note that I love about this that you guys will probably agree on is one of my favorite things to do that I didn't know I used to do was to be good in indie industry, you want to identify the hierarchy, right? Like who's at the top that's doing what you want to do, who's right, who's trading at the volumes you guys want to be trading at, who's got the net worth, all those things. Find out who that is and get on a first name basis with them, right? Get around them. So that's what I did with the crystal business. I didn't really know that was like a good strategy, but it's just what came natural, right? You know, I literally genuinely fall in love with this stuff and want to be, in the end, appear in the community with someone, right? Someone that's at the top that, you know, sometimes you get a little googly eyed for, and like, you don't realize it. You're like, man, you know, you don't mean to put people on a pedestal, but sometimes it's just like intoxicating, right? You know, going around these dudes that are buying apartments, you know, $100 million in acquisitions in their 20s, you know, it's like, I mean, you can't help but be like, what the fuck am I doing with my life, right? Like, this is crazy. So that's one of my favorite things to do in any industry, is just get to know people at the top of it and just be on a first name basis. And eventually through them seeing you, right, over your timeline, they're going to watch build your credibility while they watch you do the things you said you wanted to do, right? You have the same kind of conversations. And so it's the perfect formula for really getting embedded into a community or business. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah, dude. Shout out to David Tupin for putting that real estate mastermind together, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, that guy is definitely like one of the most aspiring people that I look up to.
100%.
Trading, it's Mike. Real estate, it's him, dude. And there's so many like super, super wealthy real estate people, like super wealthy, that have been in the game forever. But like, there's just something about David that like is just different, you know. Like, this guy's 27, I think, right? He's got
Just
like
about
100 plus million in real estate assets, and he looks like a regular college kid. Like, he, you know, he doesn't flex in any way, shape, or form. You know, he flexes his bike, or, you know, like his
right.
mainly his time freedom, but it's just like the mentality behind that, you know, his industry and the mastery behind it, that's just so attractive. So dude, I really resonate with what you just said there, dude. I took quite a few notes on what you're saying, though. But first, dude, your story's crazy.
Yeah, sorry it was long-winded a little bit.
Oh
there.
no, you're
I hope
good,
it kind
man.
of made sense there, but yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, your story is it's definitely inspiring, bro. For most people,
Sure.
they don't ever turn that around, dude. You know, most people, they get stuck, and you know, they're in the system, and that's it, man. The 7 years
Mhm.
Yeah,
they may turn around in while they're doing time. You know what I mean? But I think
sure.
most people don't actually get to the point where they turn around before they get to, you know, before they get to spend some time alone.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing that I'm grateful for. It's one of those, you know, when it just not knowing thyself, you know what I mean? I've had enough
Yeah.
time where I was alone by myself doing anything. And like, you know what I mean? I was like, you know, this is no, you know, it is, no one's going to save you, you know, and I just always knew that I would, because I felt like if you're acting out of like maybe love for something, like I'm not going to make the wrong decision. And I always was
Mm.
like never trying to be like a bad person. I built this trust and understanding of myself, so that I, you know, when push came to shove, like it honestly was kind of just like second nature. So, you know, I don't even know how that was. Maybe it was just, you know, in my nature or whatever. But yeah, that's 100% a real thing. So yeah, it's been cool to meet people like you guys, and just kind of share, and now like we said, become peers together in this journey. So any, you know, anyone that's on the personal development journey, you know, the path, we all share pretty similar you know, hardships and victories. So just, you know, now it's like doubling down. Once you start realizing what's going on, what you got for yourself, what kind of person you are, you can double down on that and really just kind of look at it and take, and, you know, watch it grow. So
Yeah,
I
shout out
love
to you,
that.
Chase, for all the transparency, man. Like, I'm just getting to know you right now, and just like I'm blown away by your transparency and just your honesty and your openness, man. Because I think a lot of people maybe have been through a situation like that, might not be as open. And I think sometimes, because I come from the sticks, man, I come from a place where, you know, I was kind of in the wrong crowd growing up, especially in high school. I was around things like that. Thankfully, I had a couple of scares with the law, but I came out scotch free. But
Mhm.
I have close friends who like or got stuck, you know, got stuck in that system, like as Mano said.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important to like how you view that circumstance, you know, how you view what's happening is how you view things as things that are happening to you versus things that are happening for you, right?
Mhm.
Because I think it's so easy, and I have so much sympathy and empathy for people who have gotten through that legal system and chosen like it just sucks when they view themselves as a victim of the system, you know, because it's like, dude, like,
Mm.
I get it. Like, dude, shit sucks. Like, I had a homie who served some time for, they picked up scraps in his car. Like, they picked up
Oh
scraps of
God,
weed and
yeah.
he served some time. So, like, I was in that small town, bro, and I was riding with those people and I've seen it. And I was just like, it sucks, but it's so inspiring. And I'm like so grateful and thankful for you for sharing that story because it's like, it's another evidence, another example of proof that you can get out of that. Like, especially with just that mindset, with just like the pursuance of like, hey, this isn't it. Like, just that simple, like, belief of like, yo, this isn't it. This isn't it for me. Like, this can be better. Cause that's the fundamental belief you have to have is that you can change, you can get better. Whatever you put your mind at, you will eventually proceed. You will eventually success with that. So I'm kind of curious, man. Like, what was that transition? You said you were doing crystals, you're getting out of that, and then you kind of just mentioned real estate. Like, how did you? What was the jump from crystals to real estate? How did you get involved with that?
Right. I mean, dude, some of it, yeah, and I love everything you just said. You're totally right. And the things happening to you and for you, not to you. Like that's part of those philosophies. You got to develop philosophies for yourself, whatever that is. It's all individual. But and so also in getting into that, I think the first way was I don't remember how exactly, but someone brought up the Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it was like,
Yeah.
I was kind of going through books and I had never got to the money ever. So someone said Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think it was just maybe a friend, like a good friend. It might've been my one who passed away, Andy, RIP bro. And he was like the first person to, I think he followed my crystal business. Oh, and this is what he would tell me. He said, man, if you spend as much time on real estate as you did on crystals, he's like, you'd be a fucking millionaire. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I'll take that in. I'll just keep that, in my pocket. So I think he recommended that book and I went on to it. And then after that one, like there's cash flow quadrant, things like that. And just one thing at a time. Right. And then of course, and then he said, listen to Bigger Pockets. So that was an easy one because I was ironworking all day and I'd be able to listen to headphones. And so I just smash podcasts, right? I mean, I listened to like 2 or 3 Bigger Pockets a day. And it was cool because basically, you know how it is, like I wasn't doing something I did not want to do. It's dangerous, it's hard. You get paid well, but it's just not for me. I'm not that guy. So I would just listen to I remember just sitting one day, just like screw in deck, because that's what you do before the pour. You got to like tie the decking together. And I was just looking out on this building, listening to Bigger Pockets. And like, when you listen to something or, anything, and it gives you that like euphoric high, like tingle down your spine, I was like, it was just so much overwhelming. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to fucking do this. I'm going to be a real estate investor. So that was, my first, because in the crystal business as well, I started realizing I was like, oh, I'm only gonna make enough money if I'm $1 million dealer. Like fine minerals is my thing. I like the nicest and best, the rarest, right? And to do that, you got to have a couple mil of rocks in your room. There's a whole standard. And I started observing most of the people that were in that were either multi-generational families, or they were like literally weed ballers that put their money into the crystals. It's like it's a perfect thing. You know what I mean? Like they come to the Tucson Gem Show, one of the biggest in the world. There's like 30 shows going on at one time for over 30 days in Tucson, Arizona. Billions of dollars spent in this, multi-millions. I don't know if it's billions, it's a lot. People literally put their entire, from all over the world, they store their rocks in Tucson. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, I just started realizing I was like, this isn't gonna be sustainable for me. Like, I'm not gonna be able to get that. So that's when my buddy said that to me. If you spent that much time on real estate, you'd be a millionaire. So that really stuck with me. I just started listening to it, and I got that feeling, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's always what guides you, right? Is that feeling? I just know that that's what I want to do. So I'd say that was pretty much how I first started the path. And it was reaffirmed through people like Jim Rohn and other people talking about finances. And so I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. But yeah, I just literally listened to that. It was like the unicorn in the sky kind of thing. I listened to, how it is, like 100 something podcasts, before, and I was trying to find deals. I was trying to set up things, but it just never worked out. Right. So it probably took me 2 solid years of listening to these podcasts to even get my first deal. And I ended up getting it through my wife's cousin, who is an investor just north of here. And this is a cool story. So I was like walking properties Because, you know, like you hear people say, you got to grease the groove, you got to do the thing a bunch at a time. And when you have you listened to Joe Dispenza at all?
Yeah.
Of course.
Love
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah. So you know how it is. It's like when you start doing novel experiences, new things, then you're welcoming the universe to come in and throw something that wasn't there, you know, that's going to give you the path that you wanted. Right. So I was like, I just got to walk properties, you know, GC, good old Grant Cardone, you know, he's like, every weekend I'm walking props. Right. So I was like, okay, we'll do that. So I started going, I was like, I just couldn't seem to get a deal. And then I happened to call him, my wife's cousin, because of something. I was like, hey, I'm looking at this. What do you think about this deal? What do you think about this house? And he's like, how much you got? I was like, you know, and at this time, okay, in pretext, like it's also, you think that you got to have money to get into the real estate business, right? It takes a little bit of something. So what I did was I had to partner up with 2 other friends because I had an annuity from ironworking for 4 years. Okay. So I had a little bit of side money that I could pull out. So basically we all came up with $5,000 each. That was like the smallest amount I could figure out, you know, for all of us to get into our first deal. But he's like, how much you have? And I told him, he's like, I got something right now. And it just happened to be that I called him only because I was walking another property. Right. So it's like, you don't know. And then he's like, I literally have it. And it ended up being a duplex in a single family, 3 doors for 55,000. Okay.
Damn.
Yeah. And they were great condition and they were already cash flowing. And so I was like, holy shit, I think we got this one. It was like no brainer. So it was, each unit was collecting $600. Tenants had all been there. 2 out of 3 had been there for over 2 years. And so it was generating $1,800, okay, a month. It was 55,000 to borrow the money. Okay. Cause I didn't even know if I could get a loan to refinance. We were going to do the Burr method, right?
Yeah.
Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So that's cause, you know, I heard that, I was like, that's the easiest way, the lowest down payment, you know, of money that I could get into my first deal. You know, it just takes, obviously, you know, getting that first deal, get your foot in the door, and it kind of opens the doors in your mind as well. So it cost me, because I found some hard money lender, actually from a guy that tried to screw me over a year before. He was like I had never seen snakes before until I came to real estate. I was like, holy shit, dude, there are snakes out here, dude. Like crystal business, you can like, they'll like, you know, have groups about scammers and stuff, you know, so it's a little easier. But dude, this guy was like, yeah, give me this money. He was around these other people. He's like, I'll double it or whatever. Like, sounds like you're like, why would you ever do that? But you know, he was a golf course 50-year-old guy, like drove a BMW, would never have thought he was a scammer. So, but anyways, the point is this is also some alchemy right here, right? Finding good things in the shitty things, right? Is that guy was a scammer, but he introduced me to this hard money lender that I still use today. And I literally had a phone call with today. He's funded every one of my deals, to be honest. So,
Nice.
I met him. Yeah. And so it cost me so it was $1,800 a month it was collecting, and it cost me 550, pretty much 575 to borrow the money to buy the house. So I borrow that, you know, whatever that is, you know, 1,800, I think it was like 15. Oh no, it was 575. Yeah, 575. So 1,225 I was making a month just to buy the thing, right? And then that came to the next, you know, the next part of like, oh, now I got to find a bank who's going to refi me, because I'd never done it. Because I'm definitely I don't know how you guys are, but I'm a very much build the airplane while I'm flying kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey,
Me
no,
too,
baby,
man.
we're flying, baby. We'll figure it out once we're up there. You know, I'm shooting from
You
the
spend
hip
too much
here.
time on the ground, man. You start second guessing those flight plans.
Facts.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's not me, dude. We're getting up there. I don't care how.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that was like the first deal. And it was supposed to be like a 3-month transaction. It ended up being like 16 months. It took me to like find a bank, get the refi, because I was self-employed, and like the banks would look at me and look at that, and they're like, no, man, we're not touching you. So, yeah, you know, just had to call people, use the network, and just tried a bunch of times, ended up finding a bank. So that was like the first deal. And I still own that property. We ended up selling the duplex, but that was 2 years ago. I think, actually just about 3 years ago, in November, it'll be 3 years. So, but yeah, that was like the first one. And then, you know, once you get through that, it was like, but forever, like it was my goal. Like all I want to do was be a real estate investor. Right. You know, and we did it. And then, you know how it is. I was like, oh damn, I don't feel any different. Like what the fuck? Am I supposed to be like elated for like ever? You know, you do the thing, you're like, like, damn, like what the fuck? So, that's a whole thing. What do they say? The top of the mountain is the peak, or the peak of the mountain is the bottom of the next one. So
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's crazy, bro. One of the things that I want to like highlight. So you mentioned Think and Get Rich and some of the books that you were reading, and I've been reading that book. I've been studying that book is a better word instead of reading.
yeah, buddy.
And one of the things it talks about was like thought impulse, right? So like I want to like map out this for really anybody listening, and like this is how you get whatever the fuck you want in life. Like it's a thought impulse, right? You're reading something, you're listening to something, you're watching something, and then this God, the universe, divine energy, whatever you want to call it, right? You get something. It's like that spark. For you, it was like, this is it. Like, I'm going to be a real estate investor. That thought impulse leads to a desire, right? And you're like, damn, I want to fly. I want to put a machine up in the freaking air. Like, that's a thought impulse. It leads to a desire. And then Napoleon Hill says, right, desire leads to a definite plan. So it's like, okay, cool. Your plan was like, I'm going to be a real estate investor. This is what I'm going to do. Now that's a desire. Thought impulse turns into desire. Desire then turns into a plan. I'm going to walk these properties. I'm going to find these lenders. I'm going to meet these networks, right? I'm just going to talk to people. I'm going to build my network. And that plan, it leads to results, right? Sometimes they're not the best results, but just like how you said, right, that you find shit or you find good in the shit. Like that's some of you met a scammer, but it ended up leading you to somebody that's probably one of your best networks right now is your hard money lender. It's like those results might not be exactly how you see them in your head, but like it's not up to you, because that thought impulse wasn't you. Like it was something that maybe you were looking for and it came to you. That's just what I believe, right? But like to map it out, right? Thought impulse, desire, definite plan, and then results. Like that's literally how it works with anything in life. It's like, dude, it's so cool to watch, like to listen to where you come from. Like probably when you were in high school, you probably never would have imagined that you were going to be in the position where you're at right now, right? Sophisticated, pretty. I mean, you've done probably pretty couple deals, right? You run an investment business, you run a $1 million business, like retail business with your gems, like dude. And like you were not that person in high school. So
Right.
it's the exact result of like anybody can do anything as long as they put their mind into it. Like something my dad used to tell me all the time. And when I was little, he used to tell me this all the time and I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. He was always like, your mind does not control you, you control your mind. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like and I'm like, you know what? Like that's as you start getting older, start getting into personal development, you start realizing like, yeah, you know what? Like I do control what I think. Like I do control my feelings and my emotions and my actions. And you can become a victim of all the circumstances, regardless of all the background. Jordan and I, we've talked about our background here, right? Kind of similar to where we come from. We don't come from anything luxurious or spectacular, but it's like, dude, we just like desired to not just be there. There's just like thought impulses between talking to people. One of the people that we really look up to, right? His name is Mike Navarrete. Like we just have phenomenal conversations with him, just like a super intelligent human being in all aspects of life, right? Business. He's done very well for himself financially, emotionally. He's probably one of the most emotionally intelligent people we know. And so just those interactions with people lead to different desires. So dude, it's so cool to like listen to your story, bro, because it's like, it's literally is like the mapped out layout of like, dude, something that, for easier way to say it's like rags to riches, right? But like nothing can turn into something as long as you just stay on track, man.
Yeah, heck yeah. And I was to say, it's funny, like I got really into NLP, the neuro linguistic programming and shit. And so I even like put on my, I got my first Audi, like a nice car. I was like, you know what? I've never had something. I'm going to give myself something that gives me a little energy. Right. So I got a cool little Audi and I put manifesting for my license plate so that every time I saw my car, I reminded myself that I'm manifesting everything that I want. Right. So that's just a fun thing.
Deep, man.
I love doing stuff like that. You got to have fun with it, remind yourself. And like, it doesn't mean that everything's obviously, just like amazing now. I'm still, struggling often, you know what I mean? Trying to make something out of nothing. like trying to stack wins. Like real estate, I've never had a business where you like lose money if you're not like on point. Obviously you guys get that all the time, but like crystals, not as much. Sometimes I buy a rock for a little bit too much and I sit on it, but I'll eventually sell it. I very, very, very rarely ever take a loss. So it's been the first, I was like, holy shit, like this last one, my last flip, which was my partner's first one, my best friend who's bought every deal with me, one of my best friends, he's all on everything like this together, as we are.
Is this Steve?
No, not Steve, but Steve's a great dude. Jacob, did you meet? He wasn't out there in June. I don't think you got to meet him, but he's an awesome dude. Yeah, Steve's awesome as well. But he, what does it say? Oh, I'm losing my train of thought.
You're talking about the deal. I believe you were talking about a deal.
Oh, yeah. That was his first deal, bless his heart. And we were doing a flip and we were like, yeah, we're going to flip like an out-of-state investor. Like you hear people, they're like, yeah, on Bigger Pockets. He's like, yeah, I got like 10, 12 flips, in Arkansas, like 1,000 miles away. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, people do that. So I thought that's what I was going to do. We had this deal that was an hour away and I didn't check on it for weeks. And I did like the number one thing that's you never do. I paid the contractor first. Like, no, why would you do that? But he had literally just finished. Do you remember Justin Gooden?
His name sounds familiar. Yeah, he from Nashville, right?
Yeah. Well, no, he's from Indy, but we met him. He was on the boat with us in June, and he's like working for a multifamily company that's bought like 1,000 doors a year now. Okay. But my point was I used the contractor he used, but I didn't do any research on the guy. I literally just said, well, Justin uses him and he had no problem. Then you're hired, right? And so the guy, dude, just, some people, they'll read you if you're a sucker. And I basically paid him up front. It was like a $30,000 budget. I paid him 14 down. And like, he started doing all right. You know what I mean? He was working and then it was like halfway through. And then I hadn't been to the property in weeks. And he sent pictures and basically he ended up getting pretty much his entire budget. And I was in charge of that money and it was not mine. I borrowed all of it. So it was like $100,000 budget or $100,000 project. And I literally borrowed all of it. And so, so he basically took that and ran. And then I had another guy screw me on the same deal and took money and ran. And so I ended up having to go and do this work myself. And this was all stuff that I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to be that real estate investor that does the shit. I'm just going to step over the river. I'm not going to go through the river. I'm going to step over it. Like you think sometimes you can, but sometimes you got to go through the freaking river. Like Grant Cardone's like, yeah, I saved up $1 million to start. And then that gave him like such a different launching pad. I'm like, dude, you can go through the river and save up $1 million, but just go through the thing, do the hard stuff, learn the things. And so basically I had to learn how to do flooring. I had to paint damn near the whole house, like so much of this. And instead of losing, $20,000, I got it brought down to 10. So basically me and my partner on his first deal, we lost $10,000. And that was just in April.
Damn, bro. Some people think 10 grand is a lot of money. I was talking to someone, I was having drinks with somebody last night and they were talking about, and there was 4 of us. I'm like, what's a lot of money to you? They're like, a couple thousand. I'm like, you think $10,000 is a lot of money? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you think $10,000 is a lot of money? I'm like, yeah. How much do you think a lot of money is? I'm like, I think 100 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine that. I'm like, dude, $10,000 is like $1,000, like I was like, I know people make $10,000 in freaking 30 seconds. I know people lose $10,000 every day. It's like, dude, $10,000, dude. That's how do you? Okay, I wanted to ask you this, right, Jordan? I don't know if you've been kind of quiet, bro. I'm just listening. I'm taking in the nuggets, man. I'm learning. Same. I wanted to ask you, bro, what is like the emotional strategies that you use to because I know you're into obviously Joe Dispenza. You're obviously super personally developed. You probably do a lot of reading still and just continuously grow, but when you're dealing with your money, it's a little bit different than when you're dealing with other people's money, like Jordan and I in the industry that we're in, we deal with money. Some people, they trade, when they start trading, they start with, 10, 50, $100, people that have never traded before. So that's kind of like the very entry level investor mindset. Right. But then, there's some people managing $100,000, $200,000 accounts, and it's not their money. So I'm curious to know, as far as in the real estate industry and, with your background, what are some of the things that you do to get better at emotionally managing, number one, personally, your own finances, but then when it comes to dealing with other people's money, because you're not, borrowing 100, 200, you're borrowing thousands of dollars, from people or from institutions. So what are some of the things that you do to get yourself in the right mindset for that?
Sure. Well, Sometimes you see people that are just doing huge things right out the gate. I've found it's better to just kind of build your foundation of experience, right? Because through experience and success, you have confidence, right, to do these things. So it kind of started small, that first deal, even borrowing $50,000, I was like, I'd never borrowed 50 grand. And it just kind of, we got through that first one and it made me feel all right. And so it was kind of multiple times of borrowing 50,000 at a time. Now I've got like 300, or I've got 600 right now out borrowed of other people's money. And we're closing on 300 in 30 days. But it started with just doing the 50 grand a few times. I mean, you just got to be confident in what you're doing and know what you're doing. And of course, like, yeah, run that up and down. But it was like, you got to just, if you can find like those no brainer deals, and execute on that, that'll help. But I mean, sometimes it's just, like, this last deal we borrowed literally, this one was more of a stressful one. We've got it was a 310,000 purchase price. And so it was 60,000 down, okay, to buy this property. It's a triplex. And we actually just accepted an offer to sell it today, which I'm stoked on. It's been 30 days. So about 30 days ago, we put down, it was 60 grand. So we had 30, that's all my company had to offer, 30 grand. And so we borrowed another 30 from John, the hard money lender. And so that was so we're leveraged right there. And then we borrowed another hard money lender. Luckily, John, I had done so much business with him. It's very rare, but through trust, he's like, I'll take a second position on this note. That's like very uncommon. So he did that. So we took a second position on it. And then it was another, 270, what was it, 260? Yeah, it'd be about 255,000 extra money that we borrowed. So we're pretty darn leveraged on it. And, but we just had to run things by the professionals if you can, just studying and understanding the craft. I mean, there's no like magic trick around it. But, we asked professionals. You got to ask the people that know what they're doing. Hey, I'm about to do this pretty leveraged deal. I think we can make it happen. But I mean, there was times at night, like our first offer was 100,000 under asking. And so like, I got a text from my partner at night because he was in Indonesia, Jacob. And he's like, this offer terrifies me. I was like, I had to just text him. You know how it is, like with your friends sometimes. He was like, I'm stressed. I was like, I'm worried about this. I was like, bro, it's going to be all right. I don't know it's going to be all right. I think it's going to be, but I was like, I could read that signal there. So I'm like, hey, it's going to be all good, bro. And so then today or yesterday, we got a full price offer that for the deal. So we're actually going to double our money, and it's not a ton. I mean, we're going to literally make 30,000 on it.
Bro, doubling your money is it's a big skill, dude. I mean,
yeah.
You know how many people don't know how to double their money? So
yeah,
30 days.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're like, holy cow. I was like, because it's one of those things, like I just took an L on that last flip. Okay. And I was like, sometimes that's your energy, bro. Like, if you're not right, if you're like neglecting your body or not eating right, I mean, I still do that sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it can mess up your business. And like, I'm responsible. This started with my vision and my dream. Of course, my partners wanted to do it too, but it started me saying, Jacob, especially, I was like, bro, we are going to buy our first property. Like, we're going to do it. So it's been one step at a time of building a foundation. And so, but it was my lead on this. I was like, bro, I think we got this deal. I was like, we're going to do this. And so, I felt like I was responsible. I was like, if I take 2 L's in a row, I was kind of going through my head. I was like, this could like be maybe we should take a break from our partnership for a little while, kind of thing, if it didn't go well. So, there's obviously a lot of factors in that, but I just really like just building your foundation and starting small and just growing naturally with the deals. So,
what was the deal? So you said you purchased it, you put 60K down, it was a $310,000 purchase price. What are you selling it for?
380.
Nice.
Yeah, we signed a contract for 380 today, and so there's going to be like probably 30,000 in realtor fees.
Damn.
I know they get so much money for it. It seems so little work. I was like,
did you do anything to the property, or was
no,
it
we didn't do anything. No, we just bought it off market and undervalued. And also to say, it's on one of the hottest streets, neighborhoods in the city of Indianapolis. It's historical. We've got the big tower, the biggest building in the whole city. Literally, you look down the road and it's just in the middle of the street. I mean, beautiful old what's it called? Victorian homes, like with the beautiful, posts on the, like beautiful paint, all historical. And so it wasn't just, that it was like bought under value and that it was off market. So there wasn't as much competition, but it was another, hedge for safety here was that this is one of the hottest neighborhoods. You can't go wrong here, right? At a certain point. And then also to make things worse, we're doing this whole deal while the Fed's up in those interest rates. So,
Yeah,
it was like 3 something when we started. And then now we're at 5.5 or something like that,
Jeez.
and it's like, holy shit. We were looking because we couldn't afford to hold it. Our whole thing is, right, we want to stack doors.
Yeah.
We've got 8 of them now. Technically 11 with this, but it's sold. So 8 active units. And we're like, the whole game is, we want our first 100, we want 1,000 doors. So, it's kind of counterintuitive. Jacob's like, fucking hold this thing. And I'm like looking at interest rates, and, how much we only got so much capital we can allocate to fixing up units and adding value. So, it just felt like it was the best, decision to flip this property because obviously you want to stack doors and see your net worth grow, but I'm also in the business of increasing velocity of capital, right? Because this is also the other thing. We're working towards that multifamily, right? You see all these guys doing that. That is where we're going to be in commercial real estate. Okay. Because that's where you can literally do the value add, formula and literally make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, the homies got to represent Monopoly Bros.
Monopoly Bros. I saw that, dude. Hell yeah.
Jamil and Eric, dude, they
Yeah.
freaking bought this 45 unit. Did you hear about that? Like, it's the one they're doing right now.
The one they're doing with David, right?
Yeah. And
dude.
they were like, bro, they said before they found it off market and like half of the units were on month-to-month leases. And he said they upped all the rent like $100. And he said they had a new appraisal before closing and they had already made $1 million in value. Just before they closed, and literally they were like, yo, we got to get this closed before the owner sees what's going on here, knows what she's got. So, cause it's just an older tenant, who just wants to get rid of it, it was their retirement. So like just things like that. And then once they've gone through the value add, they're adding another, David said they were going to have $3 million added in value and there's 3 partners on it. That means they each made $1 million on one deal. I was like, that is what I want, right?
And, dude, and this is taking a very short time frame. Like, this is, they've been under contract or they've been in the process for probably 4 months, 5 months now.
Yes, just about. Yeah, I think it was the end of January that beginning of February they got that. So yeah. Exactly.
Jeez.
I was like, oh, and then you see David and you're like, okay, now, or anyone who starts getting some traction or anything, you're like, I'll take 10 of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how can we scale to do that? So that's just where I want to go. But that's, right now I'm flipping houses and I'm putting a lot of work in. Like my flip right now, I'm going to make like 25, 30,000, but dude, you know how much work I've done compared to this one we just sold? Like literally it's 100 times more work and I'm going to make the same amount of money. So I'm like looking at it, I'm like, do I want to be a house flipper? Like, what do I want to do? I got a friend here that in town, speaking of, like getting to know people doing the shit you want to do. My buddy's got 50 flips going on at one time. And he's like 40 years old, like not very old, 50 of them. And he called my city, Indianapolis. He said he analyzed all the markets in the country. And he's like, man, Indianapolis is the Disneyland of real estate investing. Yeah. He's like, bro, and we got this like highway that goes around it. It's like, if you just stay in 465, he's like, it'll feed your whole family and you can make millions of dollars here. So he was kind of driving me around, showing me all the things. And so I want to obviously scale like that. But I also talked to his brother, who's a financer. So it's like he runs construction and that's why I've been aligned with him. And he's been giving me, like, he comes to my job once a week, which is awesome. Like couldn't ask for more. Like he's taken a liking. The first time I met him, real side story, first time I met this dude, I'd been like, you know how it is, you fucking DMing someone, you're like, dude, you're fucking badass. Like, fuck yeah, I gotta meet sometime. And, I just look like just a random crystal seller, crystal kid. And he happened to be in Tucson when I was in Tucson, the biggest show. So I took him and his brother to see these $1 million crystal rooms. Like, I'm talking $50,000 to $100,000 single crystals, like badass stuff. And so that was the first time I got to meet him. So we just had this natural like hitting off. So, when you like go around someone and you see their skill and their craft and it's intoxicating as well. You're like, wow, like this is tight. You're in your habitat, your natural habitat, doing your thing, like badass. So they got to see me kind of in mine, which I think added some validity, to maybe what I was doing and maybe took me a little more seriously. Who knows? Maybe not, but it was just something that we could actually genuinely bond on. Sometimes it's hard to relate to the guy who's makes $3 million a quarter. You know what I mean? Like, you just gotta,
You gotta
At the end of
act
the day,
as
we're
if.
all yeah. At the end
try
of
to
the day,
make
we're
this
all
natural.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chase, you
So
mentioned some interesting thing that I was like, you were saying you weren't trying to hold on to the deal because interest rates rising. And I think for someone like myself, like I'm not in the real estate game, it's on the horizon for me. I'm building equity and cash flow and other things right now. But I kind of am curious to your opinions on just the state of the economy, the state of the market, like kind of the direction we're going. Do you have any strong opinions on that? What's your thoughts on that?
yeah, obviously I'm still kind of getting my own bearings. This is my first time seeing anything but a completely, bear market. Or is it bull market? I'm sorry, I'm so
Bull
ignorant.
market, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And so listen to me. And so, but that means just the strategy is changing, right? So with the interest rates, I will say that the reason it didn't work for us and it would work for someone else is just the state of the units of those in the 3 units. Like we would want to add a little bit higher of a finish to be able to get those top rents. But obviously, the real estate is a hedge against inflation, as the rents obviously, as we're seeing, are going to go up with it, right? So that is the caveat. It's just it wasn't in the best interest of our business. But like I said, like right now, people are really stoked on holding properties because we're watching all this rent go up. And then, but there's also on the side of I want to be cash heavy because I want to be ready for the opportunity, right? So that's why we
Mhm.
are flipping as well. And I would say, and that caveat also is that remember we're working towards our first commercial deal. So that's why this money started with 15 grand or about 17, and we turned it into 30. Okay, now that we had the 30 and we're turning to about 60, right? And so, but every time I know that since we're doing, one step at a time, we're getting closer to that commercial real estate first, deal like Tupin and them are doing. But yeah, I'm just surrounding myself with people who know what's going on. Beardy Brandon, from Bigger Pockets, a lot of people, putting out their opinion on what's going on. But it's a pretty good time to hold properties and realize the rent increases that are going on. So I don't have a ton of it, but ton of experience, but that's kind of what we're doing. We're just going to get cash heavy and just kind of keep doing short-term turns and yeah, slowly increasing our rents.
Do you plan on flipping like the next couple months, or do you like going end of the summer, fall, winter months, or do you
No,
plan
yeah, I mean, yeah, we're
on
looking for our next deal ASAP. Right now, I'm kind of addicted to the velocity of capital going up. You know what I mean? Like,
everybody is, man, me too.
yeah, but it's like that counterintuitive. You wanted to sink it into something, but then you're like, no, just keep going. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that's just a higher level of investing. Like I was listening to Axel's podcast, Multifamily Wealth, and he always makes really good points. And he was saying the same thing. He's like, it's counterintuitive, right? You want doors, but maybe instead of that being the metric, we're going to have, some capital, because we are just like anything. You're casting out, you've got your vision of what you want, but it doesn't work if you don't put the work in, of course. So we're going to actively start holding cash because we've got this deal out here in the future that we know we're going to encounter. So we just want to be able to have as much as we can so we don't have to borrow, and we can own more of it, because once we have our foundation, like of course you want to trade with other people's money, and like and that's like ultimate scale, right? Like now with my crystals, I broker for people, and it's like I'm making just as much money. I don't have to tie up my own capital, right? I just get the return, the profit. So of course that's like the best way to scale, but that doesn't, in my opinion, I'm not comfortable doing that until I have a solid foundation. So right now we're in foundation mode, right? Before we go up, we're going to build out wide and have a good foundation.
Yeah, that's so important, bro. Sowing and reaping, dude. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was leverage. So you obviously, as a business owner, you have this mindset, and a real estate, investor. You understand the necessary use of leverage. In trading, we use leverage. One of the biggest reasons why people fail in trading is over leverage. They're over leveraged. I think a lot of people fail in real estate. Same deal. They're over leveraged. So not in the perspective of a business owner, but in the perspective of just a regular person, but you understand leverage very well. How important is leverage to like normal people that aren't necessarily using that in their everyday activities or businesses, but like to somebody that doesn't know the importance of it? How would you introduce that to somebody? Because obviously it's super, in my opinion, super important to have all types of leverage people, leverage money, leverage companies, leverage everything. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, I want to see my trajectory going up like this. I mean, if you're just going to if you're not leveraging, you're going to be kind of growing at your constant little increase. And it's just, I feel like there's like, you get to a point where you understand what you're doing so much that that concept of leverage will come naturally, once you've been doing it enough. But I mean, obviously it's the most important. It's infinite returns when you start to leverage the right way, and using other people's time, which is a necessity. You just will see when there will be too much on your plate to even start keeping up with things. So you got to leverage people's time, learning what your skills, what you're good at and what you're not as good at. That's so important. And then once you start knowing what you're not good at, you can help bring in someone, or reading something, finding the material you need to bolster that. So I mean, that's where I'd get with it. It's just, I just think it might be a little bit out there, but if you are really doing what you're supposed to be doing, I really think that answer and the understanding of leverage will come naturally to anyone who's really committing themselves to what they're doing.
I like that answer.
Yeah, that is deep. I think it's like that thought impulse we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so important.
That's good, man. So you also talked about some of the things that we dive in deep, super heavy too, is like personal development. I think it was Jordan. You was probably one of the guys that put me on to Joe Dispenza. Obviously I read Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you've heard of Val Proctor. Probably have.
Yeah, I haven't read any though. I haven't digested any of his info.
Okay. There's other people that you talked about, but what are some of the books or some of the like podcasts? Obviously Bigger Pockets is really good for like real estate investing, but some of the other stuff that you like consume to just continue going.
Yeah. I mean, really the old school thinkers like James Allen, who wrote As a Man Thinketh. I think those are really like base level. The way your mind thinks is the whole beginning of everything. So I'd say people Think and Grow Rich. I tried to read that once a year. I mean, or not. Yeah. Think and Grow Rich. I listen to it now. But I try to digest that once a year. Because obviously you're always in a different place, every time it's not the same you. So the right thing that you need to hear is going to resonate at that time. As a Man Thinketh is powerful. Just anything like Dispenza, like we said, anything that gets down to the core philosophy of how your brain thinks is going to be the most important thing that you start with. Some people it's the Bible or religious text. Like it just takes, it's whatever's aligning on your path, but it takes, I'm kind of like looking around, it takes like Tim Ferriss, and it really helped. I mean, it's like the meathead thing, but like Joe Rogan was one of the first people that started bringing on some deep thinkers that like really, just gave me a perspectives I did not know about. Tony Robbins, obviously. Yeah, I'd say honestly, Napoleon Hill's probably my number one guy. Have you listened to or read Outwitting the Devil?
Yeah.
Gosh, that one's good, dude. That one effed me up, like low key. Like I had like some small addictions, a lot of guys
Drifting.
tend to have. And I would literally was staring at this shadow of myself to the point where like I got super deep into my addiction. I was like, this is heavy shit. Like, of course, like you think I'd say the opposite, like, oh yeah, that I got over it. But like the more I was looking at it, the more I like got sucked into it. So it just made that book so much more valid to me. I was like, this is no joke,
Dude, it's the most powerful fucking. My dad, I think I have this like battle with my dad. He says the devil's not real. He's like, it's all made up. But he's a spiritual guy, He's a religious guy, he goes to Catholic church. He's got this. He's convinced that the devil's not real. I'm like, but you believe in God? Like, there's a law of opposition. Like, there's up, there's a down. There's a sideways, there's a left, there's a right. Like, dude, come on. And the dude, Outwitting the Devil is. If anybody that hasn't read that book, Jordan's told a couple stories on that book. When Mike was on here, like it's that book, dude, is fucking powerful.
Yeah, and that's a really cool way, I think, to think of the devil instead of a character or something. It's whatever's making you drift, as they say, whatever's pulling you off of your path. That's the devil. I mean, it could be whatever, and it's all subjective, right? My devil might not be yours, right? That's why I got my poster in the back. I don't know if you can read it. It says, "All know the way, but few choose to walk it." Right, Bodhisattva. That kind of aligns. It just remembers that's your path, right? And like that's the most important thing. So yeah, that one's heavy. I might need to crack it open now because it has been a while since I've read it.
Yeah,
man, dude, I'm gonna listen to that same. That concept of drifting though is like that got me so deep too, just because of how he articulates it too, and it's almost like a virus of your own mind of like That's dude, that's what's fucking you up. That's what's in the way of everything you want is that
Mhm.
devil. Whatever you said is subjective too. It's different for everybody.
It's heavy.
Yeah. What are some of your beliefs? Like, are you a religious person? Are you more like spiritual? Or are you like you
Yeah.
practice a certain religion or
Yeah, I was like raised in Christianity, and my wife is super Christian, real strong in her faith. I was raised that in the church, and it just honestly, I did the psychedelics in my early 20s, a lot of psychedelic use, and I kind of saw things differently. I was like, I don't think this is the story for me. I really resonate with the good and evil stuff and all of it. I just don't really vibe with the heaven and hell stuff. I definitely, feel like there's more and that, our spirit's infinite and stuff like that. But I'm not sure I believe that I have to believe something or I'm gonna go burn in hell for it. It just doesn't align with me. But there's so many things in the Bible that I do align with. So that's why I'm kind of torn. It's kind of been I'm still a work in progress. What about you?
yeah. No, I mean, I'm the same way, dude. I think David was on last week. He's our guest. He's like, somebody asked me if I'm Christian. He's like, no. He's like, what do you define as Christian? And then he's like, do I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ? Yes. Like, do
Mhm.
I, religiously, cultly practice a religion? No, So it's like, yeah, I also dabbled into some psychedelics that, changes your perspective on certain things like that. I think there's a documentary Joe Rogan just posted about actually.
Yeah, I want to
On
see that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it How to Change Your Mind, or what was it? It was something along those lines, like How to Change Your Mind.
Did
Like,
you see that, Jordan?
I have not. No, I know. But my brother was like super excited about it because that's right up his alley.
heck
Yeah,
yeah.
there's like, yeah, I didn't watch the trailer or anything, but I think I'm gonna watch it, maybe indulge in some substances and then watch
Of
it.
course, of
Uh,
course.
yeah, but it's cool, man. Psychedelics, I feel like people have misunderstood them, but that to me was the
Big
connection
facts.
that broke the bridge or crossed the bridge between like everything that I was taught about like religion and spiritually and to like what was actually real. Granted, I know nothing yet, right? But
Of
I
course.
come with different ideas,
Of
Jordan. I
course.
stole this from Jordan. I wear that ideas like I do outfits, it's like whatever fits at the time. Like, dude, that just makes so much sense to me, bro. I'm gonna carry that for the rest of my life, bro. Like, it's just so important.
Dude, they're like
Um,
psychedelics like the opener, bro. They open your mind just to like you said, the fact that you don't know anything and the fact that there's so much more than what we think there is. It like really does it's a spiritual experience. And like that's given me my viewpoint on like religion and stuff. It's like I think the word is omnist, someone who believes finds truth in all religions.
Mm.
Is like,
right.
dude, like they're all talking about the same thing. They're all talking
Right.
about the same spiritual divinity, presence, awareness, energy, whatever your term you want to put on it. I think God is one of the most misused words in the world, because it's can be used to manipulate people in a way of like in this physical realm. But we all understand like psychedelics are like that experience that you will, if you don't understand, you're not aware, like they will show you,
Sometimes
yo,
they don't though, which is kind of crazy. I will say, like, I
really
used to have friends, like we'd all trip and eat the same stuff, and I'm like having these crazy mind-blowing thoughts, and then they're just like nothing. I'm like, yo, do you guys not see what's going on here? Like for real, it wasn't all my friends, and that was that
interesting.
was that was
Yeah.
another learning lesson too. I was like, it was only a few, and like some of my best friends that I have now that like see these deeper meanings in it, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I enjoy that fully.
Do you are you still like, do you have like this like work hard play hard mindset, or are you more just like, I went through my what is it, like deviant years already, like I'm not
Had your
really too
fun.
into, yeah.
Oh,
Or
wait. In regards to what, work and or psychedelics?
shit, I mean
Oh, no, no,
that.
yeah. Honestly, I started like really pushing my, like I tend to, how it is. Like I tend to take my shit really seriously, like a little bit too serious sometimes. Like I had a lot on my plate for a while, running the crystal business, having a family, a daughter, and having another job plus learning real estate. It's like I was spreading myself really thin, and I just don't like the overworking. I think it's a natural male thing that you might want to do, tendency to grind really hard. But of course, like it's just a natural, like I'm a 24/7 worker. I work when my eyes are open until they go to sleep. That's just how it is. Because I love it. But I also am like starting to see more of like the chilling out, not killing myself mentally, because it can start to get pretty dark if you're not seeing progress or whatever, or just things are rough. I try to keep that in mind. Cause I used to be like the David Goggins, like, stay hard, motherfuckers, don't be a pussy. Like I remember calling my friend. I was like, don't be a pussy. And he's like, bro, it's not even about that. He's like, he was just burned out on it, and I've started to experience burnout for the first
Burnout's
time.
real.
Like, yeah, like I'm kind of I've honestly kind of been like that the last 6 months to a year on my crystal business. I actually took my old ironworking job back last September because it was just like I couldn't wait to have a steady paycheck. It's been 4 something years of, I don't know where my rent's coming from. It's up to me to literally sell crystals to make my living, right? So like it was honestly like such a refresher. I could just not think while I was at work, and I could just know that I'm getting paid, so there's a yin and a yang to everything, a woo-wah, as they say.
I relate to that a lot. Because I had a similar journey with my entrepreneurship. Like I jumped all in and I was living off it for years, traveling all over the world. But the unsteady nature of it, it's like can get at you, and it's like you must feel like something that you used to do because you loved it. Now you're forced to do it to like eat, to pay your rent, and so having a steady nature, but it is a balance because I think the older I've gotten, I've learned that, yeah, like David Goggins, that whole like, let's fucking get it. Just go, go. Don't be a pussy. Like you have that kind of mentality in your younger years. At least I did, and it's like, yeah, I'm grateful I did it. I went hard and I achieved a lot of things. But the older I get, the more I realize it's not about how fast you can do something. It's about how long you can do something. It's about the sustainability, like how, like, and that's how I do everything now with every business I run, my marketing business, my trading, my investing, everything, my relationships. It's like if it's just something I can't see myself actually being able to sustain long term, I don't have much interest in it anymore, because what's the point if you're just going to do something, go hard 3, 6 months, even a year, 2 years, just for you to drop and stop it, because then you're right back where you started. So like having that balance and understanding yourself of how much time you need to relax, how much time do you need to be alone, how much time do you need to have fun, and balancing that with your work and your progress. It's so key.
Yeah. With that, I feel like one of the hardest things though lately is the fun thing. Like I used to only have fun skateboarding, and it's like it's genuinely become sometimes a thing where it's like everything is business, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of starving my soul, because I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, like every business I've gone through like gets kind of less and less fun. Like crystals really do come naturally. I'm finding beautiful, rare things and making money, and like it's really easy to fall in love with. And the real estate's like honestly been like not so much, like luckily I'm learning design, and that's literally the only place I'm finding like that inspiration is like I'm starting to get a little bit good with design and be able to add my touch to it, right? But like it's a thing, it's like you don't want to, like, it's like the harder you grab, the more it slips out. So I'm like, it's a balance of that. But I'm like, I used to skateboard and like my wrist is kind of messed. So I'm like, I'm trying to figure like, what do I do for fun? I know I sound like a sociopath, but I'm like, sometimes it's not hanging out with my family. Like I'm trying to find something like creative maybe, or like
you need your own thing.
Yeah, like running's fun. I like running, you know what I mean? But
yeah, dude, I see you go fucking barefoot running like God knows how many miles, dude. You're
yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. We do that. We'll eat some mushrooms and put in like 10-mile runs barefoot.
Oh man, let's go. I'm about it. I'm about it.
Microdose, bro, in the morning. And dude, there's deer on our trail. So like, dude, literally we've been like 5-10 feet from a deer. I remember last time me and Jacob were like, I was like, I think we had a strong microdose. The trees kind of moving a little bit. And then this deer stops in front of us 10 feet away, and its tongue's just hanging out its mouth, panting. It's like 7 a.m. We're the only ones at the trail, so the deer are still out. And yeah, it's just so much fun. Like it's such a that's a pretty cool thing to do and connect with the earth. It's like, and also our trail, it's a mountain bike trail, so like in the morning sometimes obviously the mud's softer and you can follow the deer trail, the deer footprints and so shit cool. And it's like I feel like I'm like I literally say I channeled whitetail deer energy, like deer spirit, because they're so fast and nimble through the woods. And like when you're barefoot, it's actually really fun because your subconscious, like literally, like without any effort, it's not exhausting. Your subconscious is like, oh, step there, don't step there, don't step. You know what I mean? You're like, it's not just like running where you're just like stomping on whatever's in front of you, right? So but I like, it's kind of fun to have that kind of vibe with it, like you're like a Native American or something dipping through the woods, kind
of like cruising. Hey, we gotta Jordan, we gotta connect Chase and Brady, bro.
Yeah, we do. Brady's gonna be our guest next week. My brother, he's super into like mushrooms. He grows his own mushrooms. Like,
oh, cool.
He grows all of them, dude. So he's like
developing
his business with that.
Love it.
We're super exciting.
Get that
we're going
medicine.
On camping.
Heck yeah.
Dude. Yeah, dude. He's got all the works. I'll save the airspace for him next week so he can explain it, because I still didn't quite grasp it, because I used to think of mushrooms just as true like psilocybin, and then you learn about like lion's mane, like cordyceps, and you learn about
Yep.
all the different ones and like all like the medicinal benefits. It's mind blowing shit.
I love it. I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
We gave my my wife's parents, your parents getting older, you want them to be able to sustain, so we gave him this the Stamit 7 mushroom, package, and they didn't eat at first. He didn't eat it. I had to literally listen, because he came and helped me with my flip when I was losing that money. He came and helped me paint, so I put on Rogan, because that's like sometimes a subtle way to do it with Stamets, and he got to hear. He's like, oh wow, he's like, lion's mane's good for you. I was like, lion's mane's in the stuff I gave you, buddy. So now he takes his mushroom supplements, but at first they were like, nice. What is this kid thinking?
Chase, man, well, I appreciate you tuning in or coming on here, bro. Like, this is honestly, this is great, bro. Like, I got a lot of really good like ideas. Number one. Number two, I think for anybody listening, dude, like that heard your story or watching, dude, like that's some inspiring shit, bro. You probably hear some people like, resonate, probably are going through it, been through it, are in the process of getting into it.
May still go through it, right?
May still go through it. Les Brown says you're either in a problem, just got out of a problem, or walking into a problem, right?
Yeah,
so that's how it goes. So, dude, you're honestly, bro, like you're somebody to look up to, bro. I'm I've reached out to you for some advice here in the past, and I know I'm gonna get into real estate deeper, and I know Jordan, that's in his horizon. Who knows? Maybe Jordan and I will come to you for partnership advice.
I would love that. I would love that, dude.
Buy some deals. But man, I appreciate you. Any last piece of advice? And then last thing, bro, where can people find you, bro? What's your Instagram? You got like TikTok, you do Facebook or anything like that?
Right. Of course. Yeah. No, and I appreciate you guys having me on. Genuinely, like, we got into a really good conversation, so I appreciate that. We should definitely do this more, and I definitely want to come kick it in person again. So,
oh yeah,
let's make that happen. But yeah, I'm on social media. I've been trying to put out more content like you guys do. I love everything you curate. It's very professional. So on Instagram, I've got my crystal business, Nectar Gems. That's NECTAR Gems, GEMS. Also Chase E Real Estate. That's CHASE with an extra E, Real Estate. For my business page there on Facebook as well, Chase Eckelbarger. Yeah, just love to connect. Anyone reach out anytime. I just want to make friends with everybody in your group and your listeners, and provide value any way I can. So I really appreciate you guys.
Much love, man. Much love. Jordan, any last thoughts, bro?
Thanks, James, for coming on, man. I was sitting on like while you were sharing the stuff about the deals, I was taking notes. I was learning. Like I said, it's something I want to get into. So super cool to hear the inside perspective, hear your emotions, your feelings, and I think you're a great storyteller, man. Like the transparency, like that's a rare quality. So thanks for getting on and thanks for sharing, man.
Anytime. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. And definitely, if there's any way I can help, I will share all my resources with you guys. Just want to see you succeed. So appreciate y'all.
Appreciate that, man. Likewise as well. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated. As always, remember the fee, and we will catch you guys on another episode of Public Comments.
Peace.